Rahm Emanuel, I think, really shouldn't have anything to say about that if he presides over a city that has some of the highest murder rates in the country, if not the highest, and has some of the most stringent gun control laws, and he can't realize that those two things are that gun control does not make anybody safer. But we have a report on that with Aaron Dykes. Here's that report.
Aaron Dykes for Infowars.com. Now, we've already seen a big pushback against the system's gun control agenda. Now we're hearing from Rahm Emanuel that if you're not in law enforcement, if you're not a police officer, you need to shut your mouth and not weigh in on the Second Amendment.
Put the police chief and the law enforcement community front and center. Everybody else, from politician to whatever, take a back seat. Because the police chiefs have a credibility and authority and a voice on this.
First of all, we're not going to give up our First Amendment as you try to destroy the Second Amendment. We will never give up our First Amendment. We will never give up our Second Amendment. They are inalienable rights. They are not to be infringed. We're not going to be lectured to by the mayor of the murder capital of the world, Chicago, as you try to get these insane policies passed all around the country. But second of all, you haven't been listening to law enforcement who've been speaking up across the country saying we will not infringe, we will not enforce any unconstitutional gun laws. We heard a week and a half, 2 weeks ago from the Pennsylvania police chief of the small town who's introducing a Second Amendment defense ordinance to protect and keep the Second Amendment and saying they're going to nullify any laws which are unconstitutional and otherwise trying to infringe. We've seen Wyoming lawmakers and others trying to introduce legislation upholding the Second Amendment and reminding and sending the message back to Washington that they too will not be in part of infringing on the Second Amendment. And that's really what we need. We need people recognizing their legal jurisdiction at the state, local, and county level and saying, no, we're not going to cooperate with the feds. We will not participate in destroying our God-given and guaranteed rights. Now we're hearing from Sheriff Denny Payman of Jackson County, Kentucky. He too is saying he will not enforce federal gun grabbing laws. He's standing up for his oath. He's recognizing the fact that he is the highest law enforcement officer in his jurisdiction at the county level, and that even the feds do not have higher jurisdiction there and cannot tell him what to do.
If Obama passes this, it doesn't matter what he passes. The sheriff has more power than the federal people. They need to go back and they study that. We're a commonwealth. I can ask the federal people to leave, they have to leave. I can ask state people to leave, they have to leave.
And he's being asked by journalists how he's going to participate in confiscating guns, that dangerous task.
You're never going to pull a gun from Jackson County. I can't get there quick enough to help those people. My best help to them is to let them keep their firearm. I can't do it for the other counties. I can't stand up for them, but I can stand up for my people. And, you know, I was one of the first people to say, I think they need to arm school teachers. Not all of them, but there's somebody that needs to have a weapon there.
And it's so clear what's going on that this sheriff is saying the founding fathers will be turning over in their graves.
The Second Amendment makes that very clear, and our forefathers made that very clear. Otherwise, they would have been so high on the amendment, it would have been down the list someplace. But to me, I would be ashamed if one of them was in this room right now and having to listen to what we're having to talk about. I would be ashamed to have them sit here and listen to all the people that have given their lives for this right for us. And we just give it up so flippantly just because somebody says so.
First of all, you shouldn't want to participate in destroying the things that make this country great. Our country was different. That's why the Bill of Rights and the Constitution gave us the, quote, 5,000-year leap. Second of all, this whole talk of infringing the Second Amendment, the fact that people see openly that the media and the Washington policymakers are collaborating to try to restrict the Second Amendment, is putting everyone on edge. That's why you're seeing record numbers at gun shows. That's why you're hearing from people that they won't put up with infringement on the Second Amendment. And police officers should not be a part of that. They need to send the message that they don't want to infringe either. We don't want to see violence in this country. We don't want things to lead to a civil war. But that's why right now we need as many of these sheriffs, of these local police chiefs, of these state officials to send the message back to Washington, no, no, shall not infringe. And if we do that, they'll stop, they'll back off. Signing off for Infowars.com.
Visit Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. When you're on the site, you can also tune in 24 hours a day to my daily radio broadcast. There's also a free iPhone app to listen to the syndicated radio show when and where you want.